That being said, a lot of stories coming out of Orlando Kart Center at the end of the weekend. I think one of the coolest ones is about our next guest, Frankie Mossman. Had a up and down weekend, but he was able to get it done. I know Paul is very excited. A lot of other guys probably are pretty excited about Frankie to come on here tonight. That being said, Emery, I'll give you the honors here. After a lot of digging, Emery found
Not as much this time.
not
This
as
was
much.
a this one was a simple quick little EKN search
Oh,
because
look
I
at that.
remembered that Frankie Mossman is the only driver in the U.S. karting paddock to have a Chinese national championship.
Bang.
That's a terrible photo. I hate that one. And it's my dad's phone wallpaper too. Has been for 5 years.
Oh man! So like, how does that even happen, man? Like,
Um,
what's the story? What's the story behind it?
well, that was probably my first like ever paid for like travel race and just in general, away from California. And that one was it was definitely very different for me. I don't want to say that the Asian drivers are a little bit of a step below, but um, I'm not going to say that they're all the Ryan Norbergs and Joe Turney's out there. So it was a bit of an easier one, but the payout was good. So I was really happy about that. But some guys from back home, when I won a club championship, were like sent me and a senior driver out there, and we actually did quite good. Me and Wareheim, he was my mechanic for that one, and that was our first of 2 wins together. So we went 2 out of 2 with him, and probably the span of like 3 months. So that was pretty cool.
And then you went there like right before COVID, right? It was like,
Well, the ongoing joke was that I brought it back to Supernax. Like I was the patient zero, and that was a really bad one. Nobody really wanted to be around me that week. I was pretty sick, but nobody had a clue what it was. So I'm really surprised that this has been the first conversation we're having on here tonight. But um, but that was a story I haven't gotten into in a long time.
oh man.
Hey, what a start! What a start!
Yeah,
To
no, that is
Frankie's
good.
segment.
I'm gonna give Emery props for finding that one. That
Hey,
was not what I was expecting.
hey, hey! Shout out Emery. You're obviously in NOLA right now.
Yep,
Talk about the
yep. We
turnaround.
got John Costello back over here, Mr. Costello. I'm staying with them this week. Dad stayed home, and yeah, so we're in back in the cars finally after probably 6 months. My last time was at IMS, and I've just been staying in the carts to kind of stay in shape. But same time, they're different. Everyone says that they transition pretty well, but I found out today that had to knock a bit of the rust off. Didn't have any spins, nothing went wrong. No walls were found, no grass was touched, so can't really say that it was a bad day. All we did was get better. So
Nice. So, talk about your weekend this past weekend. Obviously, swept the opening rounds.
this one
Struggled.
was, yeah, this one was harder for sure.
Yeah.
I came into the weekend thinking it was going to be easy, but I swear the whole weekend, same layout and everything, the whole track was completely different. 30 degrees hotter, way more humid, and everything else. I can't say that it was the same race entirely. A lot of people were upset that we did the same layout, and I was really happy because obviously, like, we had really good speed at the first one, and when we showed up on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I was off. I was coming off track being like, where are we right now? And so coming in, I think we were probably P8 in happy hour. Made some changes Friday night, got better, qualified pretty well. Did quite all right in the pre-final before I caught some good air, and and just kind of sat around in top five for the final, and just couldn't really do much more than that. So we took some big swings on Saturday night, and then went out and dominated the next day.
Yeah, and you had an injury, I believe, this weekend. I don't know if it was Saturday or Sunday. Talk a little about that and how it was kind of driving the final like that.
Yeah, when me and Sebastian got into it in the pre-final, I probably it was one of my worst kind of hits together. I know the comments are funny, and so my leg, my knee got cut open, and then the underside of my calf was a bit destroyed. And so, you know, the medics were really good. They helped me out a lot. But coming across the line, I legit just stayed on the gas pedal and had no feeling in my left leg just to try to at least limp it across into the pre-final to get a good starting spot for the final. Because, you know, I knew the championship wasn't over then. And I just had to at least give myself a chance not starting 44th.
Yeah. And then that race, it was like you were slowly kind of chipping away at it, but you were by far the fastest guy on the racetrack. What moment during that race were you like, I can go out there and win this championship and win this whole race as a whole? Because you started pretty far back in that one.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've done it a few times from back there, and especially, you know, the Orlando experience of struggling, like coming through. I had one time in 2023 in KA that I went 10th to first in one lap. And so I knew that it was possible. I knew it wasn't going to be that big of a deal. The biggest problem is that I saw Blake get away super early. It's such a big lead and everything else. And I thought it was done then and there. And then eventually, probably like 4 or 5 laps in, I saw Jensen start to inch his way forward. I saw Caden let me by, which was something that really surprised me. And so I knew my momentum was good. And all we did was just go down and chase him. And the cart was just insane. From probably lap 9 or 10, I knew that it was by far, like, it just didn't even seem that it was in the same class.
And so that contact you had coming out of the hairpin when you finally got to Blake, how much of a heart wrencher was that?
That wasn't really that bad. I was just more surprised. You know, I've pulled off that move a few times. You know, that was the same thing that I did with Kai and whoever it was that he crossed over with. Ty at the first rounds, and you know, he came off trying to protect it a little bit, and it wasn't really kind of his or my fault. You know, I feel like that we were just both. He saw me in the championship, and then we just kind of got together.
And so did you ever realize, like, during the actual race that he was out of the picture? Because I know we heard on the scale line mic that your tuner told you that he had a bent tie rod, but you weren't sure of that till after.
I mean, I didn't even hear Nathan tell me that he had a bent tie rod either. I realistically, I just thought he probably got eaten up a little bit into the final corner and probably was back and forth or something like that. But, you know, I mean, the biggest worry to me was Jensen, because, you know, we both were pretty similar pace coming at Blake and everything. So I knew he was going to be my biggest fight on those last laps. But still, at the same time, I mean, it was just kind of a repeat of the same situation that I got myself into in the first weekend. And so I knew how to control it. And I mean, we ended up crossing the line in the same position.
You're naturally like a pretty animated dude, but I don't think I've ever seen you that pumped during a race. What was it like to walk it off with a win?
Yeah, you know, I was probably a bit less animated than I would have been coming from 18th. I was on a lot of Advil, and when I say a lot, I mean I couldn't really step into the cart that well, and so it all caught up to me a bit more in the scale line. Like right once I came across the line, I was like, you know, my normal whatever, put the hands up, be stoked, and all that, another race win. And then once I realized that, once I came in, I was like freaking out, you know, like screaming like it was a Super Nats final. But it was a really big deal to me because I've come like so close. Like I said in the interview, it's just been a super long time coming, and so it meant the world to me more than probably if I went and won the world championship this year.
What work went on? And we know, you know, kind of the story, but what work has gone on over the years to get to a point where you're a national champ? Because for a guy of your caliber, you know, it should have happened a lot sooner.
Yeah, and sure. To add a little bit to that, you've, I think, had some bad luck, especially at Orlando. And I said it in the interview we had on air. You lost a ticket to Sarno last year.
Yeah.
So like Alex said, talk about that journey and how fulfilling was it finally able to get it done?
Yeah, you know, it was definitely fulfilling. You know, I had a lot of doubts just in myself, especially first moving up into senior. You know, we had a really strong debut at Supernats right once I came into the class. And then after that, it was like I was always up there, but just couldn't really close or get it done. No, you're not good, Michael. That's got to be top 10. That's got to be top 10 moments. Oh my
Okay, so
God.
who's all right? So tell us who that is.
That that's one of my competitors this year. No longer teammates, but he kind of put it on me today, so I can't give him crap.
Was that
But
Costello?
yeah, that was Michael. Yeah, we're sharing a room.
That's funny.
But I mean, like I said, we came into the class really, really good. Realistically, like I expected a lot more in 2023. But I would come close and come close, but my aggressiveness was just too above the bar, and I would have probably 10 people come up to me after a race, no matter it was other drivers being mad or my team owner being like, "What was this?" or "What was that?" and being like, "We got to tune it down or be more mature." And it was something that I was like, all right, kind of brushed it off as like me trying to be aggressive. Um, but eventually it got to a point where it kind of like it hindered me from stuff like championships, like that Sarno ticket last year was just the cause of a pushback bumper, and if I had probably just backed off a split second sooner instead of trying to get that last bit such out of it, I mean, I probably would have been in Italy last year. And so that's the stuff that kind of sat with me, especially through the New Year's, and especially after Supernats this last season and Rock Vegas, and with the incident I got into. There was just it was a lot of the moments where I couldn't really close it on the last lap, and that was something that like I really needed to look into myself, and I feel like that's where everything kind of changed. And I mean, I knew once the first win came, it was just going to keep coming, and I'm excited for a really full season for me. More than I've probably done in the last 3 years that I have in karting. Is what I'm expecting to do double duty for both of the main American series.
And so, what motivates you to kind of keep coming back? Because obviously, you picked up the national championship. Huge moment for Frankie Mossman. Huge, I guess, kind of like feather in the cap after everything that you've gone through in recent years. But I guess with all you've got going on the car side of things, a very loaded schedule. I mean, you don't have to do double duty. You don't have to keep coming back for full national series. What drives you to still race all of these series and with Jay and with kind of the double program going on?
It's like I don't kind of look at it as unfinished business. I kind of hold myself to the same regard as Joe and Ryan and all them, whether or not my stats say the same or not. I kind of think of myself as, if I go out there and I'm in X30 and I can go and compete. And that's realistically just how it should be. And that's where my motivation comes from, is the fact that I kind of want to bring to with myself, just to prove to the others that I can. I really want to get back in X30. I really want to put it to Ryan. I really want to put it to Paulie. I really want to put it to Austin, because these are guys that I grew up watching. No matter me being 19 years old now, this is the time where I feel like I'm in my prime and I can actually have a chance to go ahead and compete with all them.
Yeah,
Bang.
that's
There you go.
that's great. And if you see us kind of in the private chat putting these times down, that's just we got to come back and rewatch this stuff, because you're giving us some great stuff here, Frankie. To move more onto this year, talk about the decision to align obviously with Jay on both karting and cars, and the step away from Speed Concepts after quite some time with them.
Yeah, like I had such a great year with speed. We podiumed at legit every event that we did. So it was a big deal for me to kind of go and try to make that transition. But Jay's been like a second family to me. And I really wanted to see their program fruition, and they've put a lot of support and trust into me and the car stuff when I had a lot of doubt in myself. And he's just kept my confidence up and sent me the good lucks on the weekends and supported me on the times that I'm in the karting, given me the coaching. And so, it's my time to kind of give back to the whole program itself in general. And, he definitely needs a good American driver, because Joe can't be here all the time. And so I'm trying to kind of fill in that little space where he doesn't really have the Ryans or the Garrisons or these guys to be able to go and promote his brand.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, I think one of the biggest things about the transition was an OTK Well, first you were on the CRG a lot, I know, in 2023, and then an OTK to a KR. And I know we talked the opening weekend at rounds 1 and 2 at the SCUSA Winter Series, and you were kind of saying that the KA was just to test out the new chassis and to learn it a bit, but then you go out and win both those races. Talk about that transition, of going to a complete new chassis. I don't know. Have you ever been on a KR until this year?
No. I had actually the chance to drive one for 4 laps at K1 circuit, probably a few days before I left for Orlando for the first weekend. But it wasn't set up properly. I was probably reaching for the steering wheel. I was like this, and I'm and at a high speed track like that, um, and it didn't kill my confidence. It really gave me a lot more because I was like, if this kart can be set up to my preferences, I was like, I'm probably going to be unbeatable. And we went and showed that in the first week. The second week was a little bit more difficult, but I think everyone kind of stepped up their game a little bit to close the gap. And in the KA racing, it doesn't really come easy. End of the day. I mean, I don't think there's been any of those races other than Joe's at Supernats where people go ahead and check out. Like it just doesn't happen. And so I wasn't expecting it to. The only times that it did happen were when people got into each other, and I hit a good crossover or timed it right or whatever else, and that's how it worked out every single race.
I was gonna say, had you won a KA main event like in a national level before this year? Because
Nope.
I feel like
No,
you've been up front so many times in them. Like
yeah, and I feel like that's just kind of the proof or the point that I want to make, and that was my motivation for keeping into it. It's not the full priority is obviously me and the cars and everything else, but at the same time, this has been my life for the last 13 years, and so my first national podium I was at 7 years old, and my first national win was at 19. Sorry, at 18 technically, because it was my birthday weekend this last weekend.
True.
But so yeah, there's all that type of stuff, and so yeah, like you said, I've been up front a lot of the time in KA. I see myself a lot up at the front in X30. The whole Miami Grands thing happening. I feel like if that whole incident with Dalton and Jacob and them coming together and him having to cut the track a little bit, I think that could have put us in a position to be able to win. Or a good battle with me, him, and Ryan, and probably wouldn't have ended with me in a wall. But it was another one of those instances where I was just trying to get too much out of it, where I probably could have settled for second. And that's why those races you'd always see me up front and just never with the win was I just always try to get more out of it. And it was just unnecessary.
So you think that's the biggest difference between why you've now won multiple nationals in one weekend versus
For sure.
previously where maybe if the race ended 2 laps sooner, you were the winner?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, before the red flag and Miami Grands, I was leading probably the entire race, and then everyone kind of got together, got a little game plan. I got into my head a little bit for those 40 minutes that we were sitting there baking in the sun, and it was another one of those things where I was just like, all right, we're already the leader. And my expectation was to just go ahead and lead that entire race. And all it did was end up with me going backwards and backwards and backwards. And so, we still ended up with fifth, but at the end of the day, for qualifying pole there and all that stuff, and for the pace we had in X30, for where my head's at now, I feel like I could easily won that race if I just played it out properly.
How much have you learned about the sport over the years of like how much of it is a mental game versus actually how good you are? Because I feel like a lot of the top drivers that we talk about that continue to win, they're really good at understanding like when it's their time to shine in the race and when the race needs to come to them.
100%. I feel like somebody that showed that a lot to me this weekend was Caden. I've never had anybody point me by, like probably in my entire career. And he did and worked with me to go forward. And that's just another stepping stone for myself to be able to take in and be like, all right, it's lap 4, look behind me, understand the gap, and see what the long-term goal is. Am I quick enough to go catch the leaders? And those are the top drivers. Those are the reason that you see Caden, Joe, and Ryan, and all those guys. They're consistently up there. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. And so do you see IME Grands as kind of like a turning point for you mentally? Like was that, I guess, experience?
That was a part of it. I feel like Supernats was the biggest for me. We had definitely the package to beat in KA, and still Joe ended up walking away with it just because I got a little bit hot headed and got into it with race. Um, so it was, I saw him get into Poly and I got, we're all friends and I'm social, I'm very social with everyone at the track, and Poly's been a bit of a mentor to me when I was with MDR. And so it got into me and him getting into a heated battle, and that's the type of stuff that like I don't see the top guys like Joe and Ryan. They don't get into stuff like that. They don't, their body language in their head, it's never like paying attention to being like, okay, you hit this guy off or pushed me off here. Now I'm gonna throw a dive bomb from 10 carts back into you.
And so now if you get the chance to go up against Ryan, to go up against Garrison, at some point to go against Joe as well, where do you think you can kind of find that edge that maybe Frankie last year didn't have?
I think I've had the pace. I just haven't had the mentality, and I definitely needed the first win under my belt to kind of bring myself the confidence to be around them consistently. And so there's going to be a lot of new tracks on the calendar for me this year. Daytona. We got Speed Sports. I've never raced at Texas, and
Great
so
place.
that is a. I know that's Caleb's. and so those are going to be the biggest hurdles for me this year, more than I think racing against those guys, because at the end of the day, I feel like I've put it to them more times than anybody else at the national level. I haven't gotten the job done, but realistically I think it's just been me and Harley and DeTulio and those guys that have been up there with them more times than anybody else.
Yeah.
You've had the chance to work alongside Joe, if I stand corrected.
Yeah.
And for a driver like him, who's now on a 7-race win streak, what does it take to actually like what does he do that you see firsthand that is the reason why he's so successful?
I have a funny photo of him sleeping in the trailer, but that's I don't think that's a secret. but no, he's one of those guys that just has, I think, more of a complete understanding of what it all takes, and more than it's just a fact in going out and driving. He's one of the guys that's straight in, straight on the video, straight helping out the other guys, and I feel like that translates to helping him too. And so I try to aspire to be like him. I hold him as the best karting driver in the world right now, and I feel like a lot of other people do. And so to be able to kind of be under his wing a little bit for these last 2 races has definitely brought, I feel like, me to a lot stronger of a level.
Yeah, and I feel like everybody under y'all's tent, especially with the Jay Howard guys. I know you guys have a lot of coaches under there. Juggy is in there,
Yep.
who's really, really good. I've seen him work firsthand. Harley's in there as well. Do you have any do you talk to the younger kids at all? Like, how is kind of the
Yeah.
environment in the tent for you guys?
Yeah, it's really cool. Obviously, I kind of try to stick to what I'm close to, which is the senior guys. But I've tried to help out working with Brody Stoffel, and watched a little bit of Marcelo's video, and those are 2 very, very naturally talented kids that I think are going to be really good up and comers. And you can't count out Hudson and William and all those guys. But that's more of kind of like Harley and Jonathan's kind of dimension. I try to stick to a little bit more of helping out the senior guys when I can, when my video works. um, and it's just translates a lot more for me, because when I go out and do it, it's a lot easier for me to say, you got to do this, and that. And when they say they can't, it's kind of point proven when you're going out and doing it.
Yeah, and you guys actually on the Saturday had a 1, 2, 3 in the micro class.
Yep.
And obviously great results all around. How is that? I know Jay wasn't there for that, but how was everybody under the tent? I guess you guys are off to a hot start. I think for a new team, new program. And speaking of Jay, he looks like visibly, like you can see that he has a lot on his plate, but you guys are doing a great job, I would say.
Ooh,
Uh-oh.
I think the hotel Wi-Fi happened.
We'll give it a second. He's still
he
in
has
here.
he has a lot on his plate, definitely. Oh wait, can you hear me?
Yeah.
There you go.
Hello?
You're back.
Eventually.
Yeah, good.
Got you.
Good.
Okay. All right, cool. All right. Yeah, sorry, can you repeat that? I kind of lost track right there in the middle.
No, you're good. Yeah, I was just talking about, a triple podium for you guys, a 1, 2, 3 on the podium for the Jay Howard Driver Development boys in the micro class, and great results all around. I know it's a lot of work. I couldn't imagine what it's like for Jay to run a car team, a high level car team, and a high level karting team. How has it kind of been under the 10, and I guess to see the success for you guys so early on in the karting team's kind of rebirth?
Yeah, it's been really different of an environment. We just added in the USF juniors a year before for the program, so that was a big transition. I feel like for the team adding in a large number of cars, and then all of a sudden you add in 23 go-karts under the tent uh, at a completely different track. So it's hard for Jay to be in two different places. Sorry, am I lagging, or can you guys hear me?
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah,
You're
it's
good.
lagging a
You're
little
good.
bit, but you're
Oh,
good.
okay. Sorry. From my end, it's all shortcut. But yeah. So for him, I feel like it's hard to be in two different places at two times. But he's brought in a lot of good people to be able to support what he needs to make happen out here. I mean, Harley and Jonathan are probably two of the people. If I created a race team, that I would have them coaching my guys.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. I think
Stuff's lagging big time.
you're good.
No, you're
You're
good.
good. You're good. It happens. It happened to me a couple weeks ago. The hotel.
In his own house. Can you believe that? Oh no, it was in a hotel.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
It wasn't a hotel. It was in a hotel.
It's happened to
Damn.
me in my own house actually before. So
I was gonna say Caleb's lost his internet more times than all of us. So
these guys. Anyway, Frankie, double duty for you coming up, and on
Well,
a
I probably
kart
should
you
have paid. I probably should have paid for the.
We're on the free Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm on my
we
hotspot right now.
we need
Oh.
we need to start covering that expenses.
Yeah, we do. We do.
But yeah, Caleb. Back to what you were saying.
Submitted
X30 coming up for you this
Yeah.
year. Talking about kind of everything that we did with the mental side of things, the experience side of things. How are you feeling, I guess, moving into speed sports in a couple of weeks? Or I don't know if you're doing Daytona or not at
I'm
USPS?
gonna be doing Daytona. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm
moving
doing
into
I'm doing Daytona both double duty. Yep.
so moving into the opening month of the season, kind of how are you feeling? And on the main stage, on the pro stage, double duty, and,
I mean-
and with everything that we just talked about.
Watching Joe be able to do it, I'm gonna be probably at a similar stage to where his equipment was for speed sports. Use him for a baseline, use his data, use where he was with the cart. Maybe the tires are a little bit different, but Daytona's I feel like is going to be a little bit more of a challenge. But I feel like it's going to kind of be like that for everyone. I Ryan and Austin and all of them don't go drive there every week. So that's the biggest thing that I feel like is going to be more of an even playing field for all the top guys. I feel like, I think I adjust pretty well to these new tracks. I feel like I have a lot of success on Wednesday and Thursday at Supernats, Rock Vegas, whatever. So the temp tracks really fit my style, and so I feel like that's just gonna translate for when I go to Speed Sports, MCC, and Daytona this year.
What's your approach then to a track you've never been to, where you feel like you can adapt so quickly?
I mean, it really, there's no kind of special trait to it. I feel like just get behind the quickest guy that you can see. Try to use somebody else out there on track as a kind of a reference to see where you kind of stack up. Like when I went to Grands this year, and we were on that temp track layout for the first day of practice. I was using Overbeck as kind of reference point from the other side of the track. So whenever I would come out of turn 5, he would be on the back straightaway. And this was my first time driving a kart in 4 months, and every single time I could see that I was catching him every lap. And so that just kind of brought my confidence up and felt like I was adjusting a bit quicker, and just kept on moving forward from there.
There's this other thing I think that a lot of people have kind of talked about. Simon Sykes, one of our own guys. When you were running double duty at Emmy Grands, you're like, no, Frankie. This is his words. He's like, no, it's definitely more physical to drive a USF a Pro 2000 car. Haven't done double duty. I know we talked about it a little bit that weekend, but what do you feel like is kind of takes more out of you to drive?
I mean, if I did double duty at the first round of Winter Series, it would have been a walk in the park. But Miami Grands, it was miserable this year. This last Winter Series was miserable. I was probably dying of heat. Like in the middle of the lunch break, I was trying to just pray for the next pre-final to come up. And if I did double duty for that one, I feel like everything would have been a little bit different. It probably would have taken more out of me. But there's not really a concrete answer. I think the karts, the stuff happens a lot quicker, so I can probably say that it's a bit more physical. But obviously having 30, 40 seconds on a straightaway in a car, you have a lot more time to just rest and kind of think about what you need to do the next lap.
Okay, so then shifting points over 1 lap. The Indy Pro car's got to be more physical, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, like a full push, like
Yeah.
qualifying, like you feel like you got a good car, but it's not a shifter, so I can't say that my K is probably it's definitely not as physical as a pro car.
And earlier this year, you actually you posted on your social media you were testing with the Juncos Hollinger guys. How was that? How was that first test weekend for you? And what did you learn out of that?
IMS was a thing that I kind of needed to prioritize a lot more in my fitness and like where I was at. It still was another one of those points where my mentality had to shift, where I kind of had to fully commit and take a lot more responsibility for the type of stuff that before I would just kind of brush off. And another one of those things being like, I don't need to maybe take that extra track walk at the end of the day, or go and watch video with my engineer during the lunch. And those were the type of things that I feel like kind of shifted and helped translate a lot more even into the karting for me. So all that stuff has been just collectively just helping out more and more. So I mean, I've been out of the seat a lot more than probably any of these other pro national guys in the karting, but realistically I think my experience levels at just at the same rate, maybe even higher.
So you've had many car seasons now, or a couple at this point under your belt. You're looking at, I believe, a full calendar in pro, right?
Yeah.
What's the goal? What's the goal this year? It's got to be a championship, right?
100%. It's a championship. That's everything I got on my mind now at this point. I'm kind of past the race wins. They're gonna come. It's the same from the karts to the cars. It's gonna be about consistency and being like, I'm probably not gonna get those straight 7 national wins like Joe did this year, in the karts. So I gotta be fine and settle for the seconds and thirds that I'm gonna find in both the karts and the cars probably.
How applicable is like your approach to a karting championship to an Indy Pro championship? Because obviously there's a lot more races in an Indy Pro championship, and there's no drops like you would see in some seasons in karting. So, is the approach similar?
Yeah, I mean, the approach is probably a little bit less, actually probably less nerve-wracking than karting just sitting on the grid. You you know everyone else, you know what somebody's going to do. They're going to surprise you. You know, somebody may make a mistake and lock up, and that's the end of your championship run right there. And so, realistically, I mean, it's just about kind of positioning myself the best that I can in both the karts and the cars. That's going to be the biggest goal for trying to go for the championship this year.
Well, Frankie, we're getting to the end here with our time with you. Sadly, as fun as it's been, but we asked this to Justin and we asked this to everybody who's on our show. But you've obviously made a name for yourself this week, and I think you've done it prior, but you got those breakthrough victories. Why should fans root for Frankie Mossman this year?
You know, I mean, it's not my biggest priority. I like the kids that come up to me and ask for advice, and you know, the people coming up and make me feel like I'm on top of the world, you know, because I was at a point for a long time where I was dead last and I 30 junior and just kind of hoping and praying for the one time that I would get a top 10 like the Morgan boys or Bocuse and all them, you know. And now I'm at the stage where, you know, I'm going and competing with the best karting driver in the world and the best driver in North America and at their level. And so I feel like that's the kind of drive and dedication everyone needs to have. And because there's a lot of people that kind of just give up on this, and it's just something that's very unnecessary in my book.
This guy's PR trained, guys. Goodness gracious. All jokes aside here, Frankie, you have a busy year ahead of you. Karts, cars, tell us everything you got planned for the year. Obviously, there's probably some stuff you can't announce. As much as you want to share, where can people find you on social media? The floor is yours.
You know, I mean, I can obviously talk about what I got planned out right now, but some other cool stuff in the works past that. So it's going to be a really busy schedule this year. You know, we got full USPKS, full pro tour coming up, and then later on after my car season, going over to Sweden for the FIA Worlds in OK, which is I feel probably going to be a really cool experience for me. And then also I'm going to take my championship ticket from this past weekend, and instead of using it for the Supernats entry with race tires, I'm going to use it to go over for the IME Warrior final as well, because I just don't think that we're represented enough, and we're at a high enough level where we should have Ryan and Austin and all them going every single year, being realistic.
Real.
Hey.
That's real.
Frankie Mossman, everybody. What a great guy. Frankie, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a great time. We're going to pay for your Wi-Fi next time you come on. I'm sure you'll be on pretty soon. It was great. It's like the last 10 minutes, but seriously, great job all weekend. Great job all year. And we'll see you soon, man. We'll see you soon. And we're excited to have you with us.
Thank you, guys.
An extended period this year.
And congrats on the first American championship.
I appreciate it. Oh yeah, it's gonna be the first of many. I feel like. Oh my god, never mind. I know what you were.
It took him that long. Hey, Frankie, thank you very much for coming on, man. Seriously, it's been
awesome.
Okay, is it cool?
Awesome job.
Can I shout out a few? Guys?
Sure.
Go for it.
Okay. So I want to say thank you to A2Z Karting Engines for the last weekend. You know, they've been a big supporter for me with the engine program, and they've done really well. You know, they ended out 1, 2, 3 in the championship as well. You know, they're really cool, and I'm excited to go back out there. And Kart Republic, obviously, and Jay. You know, those guys are the biggest reason that this even happened. You know. So I gotta owe a lot of it to them. So cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say too, you probably made Ari's day on Sunday a little bit better because he's in the same boat as me with the Chiefs losing. So,
that is fair.
Yeah,
but no, I don't know what you said because my Wi-Fi is really bad, but I'm just gonna give you a thumbs up.
He said you made his day better.
I said no. I said you made Ari's day better.
Yeah.
That's, oh man. No, yeah. Note to self.
Thumbs up again. All right, Frankie.
I
We'll
don't know
get
what he's
out of here.
saying, but okay.